meditation. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada, for giving us this very encouraging purport, and Super Soul for giving us this verse this morning. Very befitting the end of the festival, and all of us going back home to our places, except for those devotees who stay here, the inmates of Simhachalam Dham. How many inmates do we have? Advaita Singha Prabhu and his crew. 35 inmates. Inmates. You know the term inmate? Inmate generally are prisoners. Inmates. They're the ones who live in prison. They're called inmates. I picked up this word when I lived in American temples. In one community, New Vrindavan inmates. Of course, in today's society, I was talking with Purushottam Krishna, the main symptom of modern society is the mobility. Everybody can leave a temple at any time. This was because he has a car parked outside on the parking lot. He can go off in his car. If there's something he doesn't like, he can drive to town. And so this is different from Vedic village life, where everybody was practically confined to the village. Everybody was living in the village. They all had their plot of land, piece of land. They grew their crops. They had their animals, the cows especially, and they were doing everything manually. They were not using machines, and they did not have modern cars to go to another village. In order to go to another village, you would have to walk. Now, who wants to walk nowadays? Or you would have to take a bullock cart, and bullocks are very slow. So in order to avoid a lot of walking and bullock car riding, people would stay at home. And they would not go hiking, with backpack and equipment and climb mountains. They would only walk to their fields and work with their body, so there was no need of hiking or taking walks. This is also a symptom of modern society, bourgeois society, taking walks. I know other countries in South America and other places, third world places, people don't go for walks. It's enough walking, just going to the fields and working in the fields. So we live in a different society today, and we were also just talking now that time, it always goes ahead. It never goes back. The body goes through changes. It takes birth, it grows, and there's a period of maintenance. It produces byproducts, then it dwindles, and then it disappears. It doesn't go the other way around. It's not that it disappears, then dwindles, and then, no, it is this way. It takes birth. Physical life starts with birth and ends with death. It doesn't start with death and end with birth. Because in Vedic conception, there is also the knowledge of circular time. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that for one who has taken birth, death is certain. And for one who has died, birth is certain. So in this way it is cyclical. It's always repeating itself in a type of spiral. Like the seasons, spring, summer, fall, and winter, they also repeat themselves. Not that at winter time, everything gets colder, all the plants die, and then it gets colder and colder and colder and colder until everything is dead, and that's the end. No, it's not like that. After spring, after winter, next spring will come, and everything flourishes, blooms, and summer comes, and the festivals start again in Simhachalam Dham. Now the festival season in Simhachalam Dham is over, and the devotees are quite happy. Finally, they can breathe. No more 13-hour days. We can have some free time, take care of the families, cultivate the crops, do the harvest, and do the maintenance of the building, and so count the Lakshmi. Like this. So, but next year again there will be festivals. Festivals coming, starting with Narasingha Chaturasi in May, or maybe even before that. You also have festivals. Guru Purnima. Guru Purnima festival, and we have another Nishinga Chaturasi festival, and we are there's going to be other festivals, Janmastami, and then Radhastami, and another Brahmotsava festival. The 41st, what? Sankirtan festival. Sankirtan, in winter. Oh yeah, right. Around December, when everything is really cold and dark, at the end of December, there's the Sankirtan festival, the New Year's Eve festival also. All the devotees come together, and it's an entirely different atmosphere. Usually they have snow here. I was there for a few of the Sankirtan festivals. Everything was covered with snow, and everything was so crisp and clear. It was 3 degrees below zero, or 5 degrees, and so different. So this is a place of festivals. Why? Because it is the place of Lord Narasinghadev. It is explained here in this verse that always engaging in the activities of devotional service, devotees feel ever increasingly fresh and new in all their activities. And so why do we have these festivals? Because Krishna consciousness is like that. Developed, unfolded, pure Krishna consciousness is like that, that the devotees always feel ever increasingly fresh, and especially when the Lord is there. This verse and Srila Prabhupada in his purport explains why that is so. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hrideshi arjuna tishtati. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita that the super soul is accompanying the spirit soul in all bodies. Ishvara sarva bhutanam. Krishna is the Lord of all sarva bhutanam, of all living entities. Hrideshe Arjuna Tishtati. And he is situated within the heart, the region of the heart. And Brahmayan Sarva Bhutana Yantrarudani Mayaya. He is situated on the heart in the heart of the bodily machine in which the living entity is being an inmate or confined. So as long as the living entity is in this confinement of the material body, there are two things. Sochati and Kangshati, also explained in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, na Sochati, na Kangshati. Sochati means lamenting, Kangshati means hankering. Two things, hankering and lamenting. Hankering means I want something. I have material desires. I want a new car. I want more mobility. I want to go faster. I want to have a newer model camera. I want to have a bigger TV and more. No end to it. This is called Kangshati. Nature of the material world, Kangshati, always lamenting for more and more. Senses never, we could talk of sense gratification, the desire for sense gratification in the material world. Everything that we aim at materially is for the gratification of our senses. But the senses, they just never get gratified. If sense gratification would be possible, we would still live in the Van Ashram Dharma society. It was like that all over the world. Rural societies were predominant. India especially, they would still be satisfied with rural life if the senses could be satisfied at one point. But the senses were not satisfied with rural life. There were the offers of modern society, technology, and it was taken by all over the world there was this seduction through modern inventions and rural life. Even in villages, in India is coming to an end. There was one documentary done by Srila Bhaktivedanta Maharaj on the death of the villages. How even in India and other places, people are leaving the villages and going to town. Why? They don't feel their senses gratified in the villages. They are following this seduction of modern amenities offered in cities, so they leave the villages and go to the cities. This started in Germany much earlier. This place especially, around Simhachalam, was all villages, Neureichenau and Altreichenau, and they were all villages. But now, and little farms spread in between. You can still see the farms, but it's not village life. Why? People have cars. They are mobile. They can leave their farm at any time, go to Passau, do the big shopping. And also they have the media, TV. They don't live in their little village. They watch TV and see movies of faraway places and that situation that they don't have in the village, of city life mainly. And sometimes nature movies also, because nature is disappearing. Well, here you can still see some nice nature. And everybody here go to the farm, they're very modern. They have most modern equipment. Even the agriculture is done with modern equipment. They don't milk their cows themselves. They have machines. So village life isn't there, nowhere in the world. In Germany, it stopped earlier than in India and other places, for example. So here when we have these festivals, especially I like these long festivals spread over a few days, that when the devotees get to know each other, they get to know each other. And when you first come, always very interesting, when you come to a festival, you look, whom do I know? Is there somebody who was here last year that I talked to last year? And maybe 1-2 people, or maybe more. The more the better. Many times we come in groups, families, or get together in cars, on trains. So we have people whom we know. So then you communicate with a few people you know, but then since the festival goes on for a few days, you get to know more people. You take prasadam together, you get into talking, and it is and it's all inspired, yes, thank you, by Krishna Katha, that is delivered profusely, poured out by our learned swamis, sannyasis, and gurus, and it is all inspired by the darshan of Lord Narasinghadev and Srila Prabhupada, and the congregational chanting. When we chant together, it's so much more powerful than when chanting alone. And village life starts again in the way, in the sense that, we communicate in large groups. And then after a few days, the festival is over, and many of the participants go home to their own places. And this has been, I've been a visitor to this Nishinga Chaturdasi festival regularly since my family and me returned back to Germany in 1989. We had been, my wife, I had mentioned I went to South America, so I brought a wife from there. Our 3 kids were all born in New Vrindavan, USA. So I came back to Germany. I went alone as a brahmachari, returned as a grihastha with 3 kids. So in 1989. And since that time, every year we have come to the Nishinga Chaturdasi festival. Every year we have made it a point. From the time our children were small, now they're all, the eldest is 37. And also the Janmashtami festival in Golokadam. Every year we have gone. And I've been going, if I don't go to Nishinga Chaturdasi, and to Janmashtami, my yearly sadhana is just topsy-turvy. Something is missing, you know. It is as if I wouldn't have had breakfast or something, you know. It has to be there. Visiting these Vaishnava festivals is enormously important for devotional service to develop. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that these Vaishnava festivals are the mothers of devotion. So many devotees, what I felt after leaving festivals earlier, when I was still working, I thought, I'm terribly missing it. Huh? What am I doing? I worked in the office, insurance. What am I doing here? Has nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. So the elation that I felt in the during the festival turned into depression when I came home to my old place. It took me 1 week to get over it. Mainly 1 week to get into the routine of working again and feeling, okay, this is what we've got, you know. We have to be satisfied with it. But after some time, I realized that this was not the right attitude. This is a superficial attitude, a superficial understanding or realization of a devotional festival. Because these festivals, as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, are the mothers of devotion. It's meant like that by visiting such a festival, gradually you're watering the Bhakti Lata Bija, or the Bhakti Lata plant, or the plant of devotional service, the creeper of devotional service. And it will, every festival, it gets an extra installment of fertilizer. Plants, they need water every day, regularly, or once a week, regularly. But once a year, you also have to put in some good fertilizer, cow dung. So these festivals are like the extra fertilizer that the Bhakti Lata plant gets. And then, after being fertilized for a year or so, for some time, the plant will just produce so many more leaves, it will grow so faster. Flowers will come at some point, and after the flowers, the fruits will come, and these fruits are called the fruits of pure love of Godhead. This creeper is described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Chaitanya Chaitamrita. The seed is sown by the combined mercy of the spiritual master in Krishna. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade by Bhakti Lata Beach. The living entity, this is a verse written by Krishnadas Kaviraj and spoken by Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev, that the living entity is a wanderer. The living entity by nature is very mobile. It is a wanderer. Brahmanda Brahmati. It wanders up and down within the universe. Brahmanda Brahmati. It even wanders sometimes from one universe to the other. It wanders from the Earth planet to the higher planets, back to Earth, then sometimes to the hellish planets, up and down in the the Jiva soul wanders from one body to another. So it's a wanderer. A Brahmanda Brahmite, and this is the same thing for all Jivas, not only for the Jivas who are assembled here in this during this festival, but all Jivas also in the animal species and even the plant species, they wander through different species. Life is over, you take a new body, maybe in the same species, maybe in a different species. So this is all Ishvara Sarva Bhutanam Rideshe Achanaitis, that the super soul is situated in the hearts of all living entities, and one fortunate living entity, he wakes up out of the slumber of material consciousness. There's a song also by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Jeev Jago, that wake up, sleeping soul. Wakes up, oh, I'm not alone, super soul is with me. like you wake up in the morning, many of you are grihastas, huh? You wake up in the morning, oh, I'm waking up, my partner is lying by my side. This is only for grihastas who have common dormitories. I don't have that. My wife sleeps in one room. I sleep in another. Oh, there is a partner lying by my side. Oh yeah, but when you were sleeping, you did not realize. You were snoring. The only time my wife and me stay in the same room is when we visit temples, because then we are always accommodated in one room. They say, you are grihastas, you sleep together. I say, no, I like to sleep alone. Okay, here it's a matter of space. You please sleep together. You have been sleeping, then you see, okay, there, your partner is there. Because sometimes you notice in the material life, these examples are never perfect. The partner snores. Then you realize during the night, why? Because you wake up. But in spiritual life, we are always accompanied by super soul within the heart. And we snore all the time. We sleep. And super soul, this jiva soul, sleeps. And super soul is awake all the time. He's awake. Krishna's Achyuta. Achyuta. He never falls down to the conditioned state. Achyuta. He never falls down. He is always awake, eternally awake. This is the difference between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the Jiva. Krishna is Achyuta, he doesn't fall down, and the living entity is Shuta. He is Tatastha Shakti. He sometimes falls down, sometimes he doesn't. This is another, is part of his mobility, that the living entity can be in the spiritual world, but due to his free will, he can also move to the material world. When you, in principle, going to the material world for the living entity shouldn't be a problem. The problem arises when the living entity identifies with the material body, which he gets when entering the material world. Now, the living entity, when entering the material world, first gets the body of Lord Brahma, and Brahma is a pure devotee. He's a pure devotee. You can read in the Srimad Bhagavatam how he is meditating on his lotus flower, how he is composing Brahma Samhita. He is shaking hands with Lord Vishnu. When the living entity first comes to the material world, he is still fully Krishna conscious. But there is this seduction offered by the material energy. You can also read in Bhagavatam how Lord Brahma was seduced, even by his own daughter. He was seduced by his own daughter. Didn't come to any action, but because the devatas were protesting, hey, what are you doing? Well, I'm running after my daughter. Don't do that, stop it. So Brahma stopped it. And they criticized, and there was a story then, this was an offense, and anyway, it continues like that. But you can see even in the story of creation that Lord Brahma fell prey to the offers of material energy several times. And then he was very morose. He gave up his old body, accepted a new body, and tried again. Because his mind was still fully Krishna conscious, but he gave up his material body. So now those we are starting Krishna consciousness, we have fallen victim totally to the material energy, full victims, inmates, prisoners of material energy. And we need somebody to open the door and get us out of prison. So this person, of course, has to be a liberated person himself. And these liberated persons are called pure devotees. And one of them is our Srila Prabhupada. He's one pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He has the key. He actually, we see, he opens my darkened eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Sakudana dila joy. He opens my darkened eyes. Amma jnanati marandasya jananjala shalakaya. He opens my darkened eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. This is the spiritual master. He wakes us up. Wake up, sleeping soul. Already Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came like, Jeev Jago, Jivat Gora Chandra Bole. Lord Chaitanya is calling out, wake up, sleeping soul. You've been sleeping in the lap of Maya for so long, of the witch called Maya. The witch, she illusions us. She's Mama Maya Duratyaya. Devi Shaguna Mayi Mama Maya. This material nature consisting of the three this material world consisting of the three modes of nature is very difficult to overcome. But one who surrenders unto me, mam eva ye prapatyante mayam itam tarantite, can very easily cross beyond the modes of material nature. So this is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is calling us. The spiritual masters are calling us. The sadhus are calling us. The scriptures are calling us. Then in this verse, it is the status of devotional service is described. How is it described? We have the three types of realizations of the Absolute Truth. Vadantitas tattva vidas. Tattva jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti saptyate. The Absolute Truth is realized in three stages, as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Now, for realizing the Brahman state, there is the yoga process of Jnana Yoga. Theoretical knowledge results in Brahman realization. And for realizing the Paramatma stage, there is yogic meditation. So for us as devotees, there has been a technical question when we become Krishna conscious. Does Lord Krishna replace Paramatma? How does it work? Because Paramatma realization is still not the end. Above Paramatma realization, there is Bhagavan realization, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Paramatma realization means you realize God within your heart by turning to Him through the devotional sadhana, hearing and chanting. And Bhagavan realization means you see Krishna in front of you. You see Krishna in front of you as a real person. You talk with Krishna. You play with Krishna, as is described in Krishna book. Krishna approaches you, you approach Krishna, you surrender to Krishna, you embrace Krishna, you play with Krishna, have different pastimes with Krishna. This is in Srila Prabhupada's life, several events are described where Srila Prabhupada went off into a type of meditation. He wouldn't start the class. It happened very few times. He chanted Radha Madhava. While chanting Radha Madhava, all of a sudden, he was there in Vrindavan. Yamuna Tira Banachari. Krishna is loitering along the bank of the Yamuna River. Srila Prabhupada was there loitering along the banks of the Yamuna River with Srila Prabhupada. There is one poem Srila Prabhupada wrote on his ship journey to America, that when will I be playing on the meadows, frolicking on the meadows of Vrindavan along with the cowherd boys and Krishna again. So he's living there with Krishna. Even in this body, his soul is with Krishna. And this is deep meditation. This is beyond the external consciousness. When Srila Prabhupada was in that state, he was singing Radha Madhava, and he was just taken away by the mood of this Jai Radha Madhava song. He was not there, he was in Vrindavan. So then when that happened, took a few minutes, stopped after Prabhupada came back to external consciousness, then he said, just chant Hare Krishna. So it happened a few times. Also, this is shown by the example of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who frequently lost external consciousness. He was found unconscious by his devotees, and he was with Krishna. He was not, this body was lying there lifeless. So this, of course, if devotees would permanently be in that stage, they wouldn't get anything together. They couldn't, they couldn't distribute books. They couldn't spread Krishna consciousness. They couldn't, because Krishna sends his devotees into this world to spread Krishna consciousness, to wake up souls. But if you are there in that lying body and you couldn't do anything, it's not practical. There are certain symptoms of ecstasy, 8 symptoms of ecstasy, like shaking, shedding tears, and but devotees generally don't show this. Even when Prabhupada was carried away by that type of emotion, he would control it. Like one controls ordinary emotions. Like for example, you become very sorry somebody has died, but you just don't keep crying in public, like this. So the devotee controls such emotions. So these are instances of devotees meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. During devotional service, what happens? Because Srila Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness is not just a feeling, Yeah, I love Krishna. I'm so much in love with Krishna. My emotion. Prabhupada explicitly said service. You serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is how you prove your love. You do something for him. You help spreading Krishna consciousness. You produce books, distribute books, serve the deity, so many things. Cook prasadam, live in Samachalam, and what all the things you can do for Krishna. So here we have explained in this verse and purport how this works. The super soul in the heart of a devotee becomes awake, and he actually takes the role of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Super soul is a communicator. He communicates amongst all living entities. And when the devotee wakes up to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the super soul also is the agency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna, practically speaking, through the agency of the super soul, takes his seat in the heart of the devotee. The super soul is like an embassy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead comes there frequently to engage with the devotee. And this is why a devotee on that platform of self-realization, he doesn't know these two things. One thing is hankering, kankshati, and the other is sochati. Kankshati is you desire something. Sochati is you lament. You lament when you are not satisfied with what you have been hankering for. And this is the case all the time in material life, because our hankerings happen in a state of ignorance. We don't really know what is good for us. So we hanker the wrong things. We eat the wrong food. We don't know what is the right food. So this will stop. You know what is the right thing. You hanker for Krishna, for love and Krishna, of Krishna. That is called lolyam, or greed for the Supreme Personality of God. That replaces that hankering. You know what is good for you. You know what is good for you is to serve Krishna. That is the beginning, actually. And then you start thinking not what is good for you, but what is good for Krishna. That is called devotional service. You serve Krishna. So that hankering stops. And since you are fully satisfied, since you're doing the right thing, serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, also the lamentation stops. Even when physically there is a disadvantage. And physical disadvantages will be there. Name them. There are only 4: birth, old age, disease, and death. This we have to confront. Everybody has to confront. Some problems take longer time, and some top problems you just can't do anything against. Take old age, takes a few decades, many times. Nothing you can do against it. You will only get older. You will not get younger. This is like a permanent suffering. Other sufferings are more temporary, like diseases, corona, it goes by. Some people also have diseases over a longer time. And birth also is a quick thing, goes over fast. Disease and death. Nothing you can do against death. It is as sure as death. Positive thinking will not happen when you're on the deathbed. Will not help you when you're on the deathbed. Saw a god brother dying here in Nikhilananda Prabhu. Positive thinking wouldn't help. The only positive thing he could do was chanting Hare Krishna and listen to the chanting of Hare Krishna. But sure, he would die after a few months. He was dead, and there was a ceremony, and I heard he is born again somewhere else. So in this way, there can be still positive thinking, but it has to go into the right direction. The positive thinking is that the Supreme Personality of God is in my heart. And if I stay awake and keep the connection to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then that is the best for everybody and for me, and I will ultimately go back home, back to Godhead. That is the real positive thinking. But thinking, this will go over, I'll be fine afterward, and forever, ever, I'll just be fine after this is over, this is called illusion. So there will be problems to the material body, but a devotee, for them, they just don't really exist. He says, he is in love, he forgets about them, practically speaking. Yeah, the body is there, but I don't identify with it. There are so many stages, so many situations in life where we really don't identify with the body. For example, when you are immersed in some work, you sit and you do some work. You're writing something, or even you sit at the computer at your office. You are immersed, concentrate on your work, research or whatever you do there. It's kind of complex. You forget that you have a body, isn't it? That you forget you have a physical body. It's not there. All of a sudden the body says, I'm hungry, give me a sandwich. Then you notice it's there. But there are real times in everybody's life where he realizes, I'm not this body. Mostly then they think, well, okay, I'm the mind. But the mind is only an instrument of the soul. What should we do with the mind? Krishna explains the Bhagavad Gita twice. Man mana bhava mat bhakto madhyati mam namaskuru mam ivaishasi satyante pratitane priyo asime. This is 934, and this is also repeated in the 18th chapter. Man mana bhava mat bhakto. Concentrate your mind on me, worship me, pay your obeisance to me, become a devotee. In this way you will come to me, I promise you this, because you're my very dear friend. So the mind is only an instrument of the soul, and we should be used like that. Should use the mind to focus on Krishna, to study Srimad Bhagavatam and scriptures, to do the Bhakti Shastri course. Some of you are studying Bhakti Shastri course. Here is, what's your name? Madhaji Vanitai. He teaches Bhakti Shastri in Poland, right? Yeah. I teach Bhakti Shastri in Germany. So, for example, immerse yourself in teaching in learning scripture. Bhakti Shastri means the Shastras that teach Bhakti Yoga. And there's this Bhakti Shastri degree. One who has this degree, he will be learned in the Shastras that teach Bhakti Yoga. For example, this is how you can engage your mind in Krishna consciousness, or different types of services. So now we are going home, and this is, what I learned from my experience. Keep serving Krishna, keep chanting Hare Krishna, keep reading the books, keep looking forward to the next festival. It will come for sure, and see you all back next year. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna.